recently had the chance to sit down with Coach John Coffino from the Cheshire Phoenix. Now, this guy's history, he's been around a fair bit now. He's been over, obviously, in America, he's been over here, over in Europe, and especially the NBA D-League as well. Some of the stories about his career is fascinating. I recently got down to sit with him again, go a bit more in depth, and this is what he had to say.
I started at an early age. I mean, basketball was my life, kept me out of trouble in the neighborhood I grew up in, and since the age of 5 I had a basketball in my hand. So it was a good way to get away from the craziness that was surrounding me with the drugs and the gangs and you know, the violence. But it really kept me out of trouble, and I fell in love with the game. To grow up, you had to be tough to survive. I've had people shot next to me and you know, arrested and, you know, overdosed, and there's so many different things that you know, just when I think about it, was you know, just insane. But to grow up in the streets of the Bronx, yeah, it was unique, and I would never want to grow up any other way.
Now, there have been many roles in basketball you've taken the form of everything from player to radio analyst to sports pundit, right the way through even to scouting the NBA, and now most famously coach. Can you just talk us through the progression there of your career, how you felt each role sort of helped and developed you?
Yeah, I you know, with every job I took on more responsibilities. When I first started coaching at a junior college, which is a 2-year school in America, it was one of the top 10 schools in the country, and I never even knew that. And I played for Ralph Arrieta, who was a legend. He's in 5 Hall of Fames, and I was just lucky. And I've been very fortunate to walk into his office and say, I want to try out for the team, then to make the team, which was probably his worst team he's ever had. You know, I hold that distinct honor. And then the following year, he offered me a coaching job. He goes, you're going to be on TV someday. You're going to be a head coach. I'm going to see you at Madison Square Garden. And all those things came true. It was unbelievable. I owe a lot to Ralph Arrieta. But, you know, I had a lot of responsibility. He gave me a lot of, you know, scouting. He gave me recruiting, all of recruiting, and he gave me coaching. And each job that I went to, I learned new parts of the game, whether it be video, travel, academics, all that stuff, and I've done them all. So when I became a head coach, I knew what had to be done, and I knew how it had to be done, because I'd done it all. And I'm a believer that guys have to pay their dues. You know, they can't just, some of these guys that jump from being a player to a head coach, it just, you know, it's very difficult because you don't know the plight of a coach, of an assistant coach. And I paid my dues, and I got an opportunity, and that's because of Coach Arrieta.
Now, your coaching career most notably started at Westchester College there,
yeah,
at the Valhalla Vikings, where you actually took them to the tournament. Tell us about that. What was that like for your first season coaching?
You know, I was going to school at the time, pre-pharmacy, and running back and forth, working in the pharmacy, going to school, coaching. And Ralph told me he's getting a little older. He needs me to do a lot of the leg work, and he said, you know, I got to get you out to Hutchinson, Kansas. I got to get you out there. It's amazing. You know, he's been there 10 times with his teams. And we were a school that didn't have scholarships or dormitories, so everybody had to commute from the city like an hour. And I don't know how I convinced some players, but we put together a monster squad, and we had a major upset to get to the Nationals. Now, to get to the Nationals, you're one of 16 teams in the whole country, and it was special. It was, you know, it was nothing like it. And they, you know, I had a suit on that day when we won the championship, and the guys doused me with water, you know, a big jug of water. And ironically, that happened to me in Kenya too. They did the same thing when we won the championship. I don't know what it is about them, but you know, it was very special to get that start. I was very lucky to walk into one of the most prestigious junior college programs in the country. And you know, as they say, the rest is history. I stayed another year at St. Peter's working for the Office of Admissions. I took a year off from coaching. And while I was there, my good friend Jeff Rulin, who I worked with at Iona, said, hey, I'm going to the NBA Development League. I want you to come with me. It's in New Mexico. And I was joking with him. I said, do I need a passport? You know? He goes, I don't think so. I go, of course I don't need a passport. It's the United States. But, you know, but I packed up my bags and got in my car and drove 33 hours cross country in 3 days. But you know, I stopped in different places. I stopped in Columbus, Ohio, stayed with my friend from Ohio State. I stopped in Lawrence, Kansas. Stayed with my friend who writes for the Kansas paper. And then from Kansas, I went to Albuquerque. And I got there the day before we were having a draft.
The way you describe that is the up-and-coming talent and the showcase for the NBA. If you can make it there, your next big step is obviously prime time.
Yeah, it's an opportunity for players that are marginal, that want to make the big league. And we had players that got called up, for a 10-day that made triple their salary in just 10 days. So their dream is to get to the NBA, and there's not a lot of spots. And it's also an opportunity for players to be reassigned down to us to get work. Back then it was you could only have someone if they were in the first or second year. But now anybody can come down. They don't like to say sent down because it sounds like a demotion, but it really isn't. It's an opportunity to play basketball, and in these towns that don't have professional sports, so you get a lot of good fans, to come to the games. And Albuquerque was one of my all-time favorite cities.
So obviously being there in the NBA D League, you did get to coach and interact with a lot of now NBA players. So was there anything that you think you helped them with there, or anything you took away from them?
Well, I learned a lot from these NBA players. I learned that hard work pays off. There's a lot of talented basketball players out there, but the difference is who's willing to sacrifice and what they're willing to sacrifice. And what I gave them was, I like to pride myself as a player's coach, and so I'm very open-minded. Now, I am tough on them and demanding, but I have an open dialogue with them. And I felt, if the players can trust you and you can show trust in them, they'll play hard for you. And the thing I learned most about coaching in the NBA Development League is they don't care how much you know, but they know how much you care. And that really went a long way with me.
The next step for you there, you went into scouting for the NBA. Now, what was that like?
Yeah, I went to California to live in Los Angeles, and I was approached by some NBA teams to do advanced scouting as far as like watching games, NBA games, before they came into town. When that didn't happen because of the money situation, I was approached by this NBA draft service to see a bunch of college games in the California area, which was fantastic. I got to go to every game, sit on courtside, and evaluate all 10 players at the same time, and then send in my report that night, the next day, whatever. And I had a criteria that I had to follow as far as different categories, as far as attitude, physical, body. Projection, where they'll be in 3-4 years, just a lot of overall stuff, and really made me look deep into the player, not just how he can shoot, but his attitude, how he interacts with his teammates, yeah, and the referees and the coach, and all the little things I look for that a lot of people don't. And because these NBA teams are buying this service and they're trusting us, and you want to be as accurate as you can. I made a lot of connections, and it really helped me because I kept all my notes. And you never know when these players are going to be available, and you never know where you're going to be coaching next. Exactly. In this job, nothing's secure. You'd like to have some security, maybe long-term deals, but it's always good to have a pool of players, especially guys that want to play for you. So we're in New Orleans at the Superdome, and at the Final Four, and I'm walking down the stairs, and who's walking up but this coach that I know from New York. He's Jimmer Fredette's coach. You know who Jimmer Fredette is? Yeah. The NBA player. He goes, "Coach, how you been?" He goes, "Oh, I just came back from the Middle East, and I'm just gonna hang out and relax for a few months." And he says, "Oh, you remember the old Albany Patroons?" I go, "Of course. That's where Phil Jackson got started, and George Karl and Musselman and Bill Musselman." He goes, "Well, they need a coach, and they need one soon." I said, "I'll take it." And he sets it up. I fly out from LA to New York. They give me the job. They had a shortened season, about 12, 14 games. We won a lot of them. And then we went on a trip to Michigan and into the playoffs, and went to the finals. they started this new league, this Texas-Florida league called the ABL, and they were going into different cities and towns in Texas and Florida. And I had about 5 teams call me, and I decided to go to the one in College Station where Texas A&M is. It was wild. It's a great town. 75,000 students go to that one school.
Wow.
You know, but I happen to have two players from there play for me, and we put together a nice team. I was the GM and the coach, and we went undefeated. We lost one game in overtime by 1 point when my leading scorer didn't play. But basically, we were the best team in the whole league, you know, subsequently, 2 of those players ended up playing for the Cheshire Phoenix down the road, because you know that was the role of this league, was we use FIBA rules. We're the only American league that used FIBA rules to prepare players for overseas. So you know, Dominique Coleman and Reggie Middleton I recommended to my good friend Robbie Piers, and they signed them, and they had a good year last year. We built a fan base. The Northgate was rocking every game. I mean, even in defeat, which wasn't many, we forged a lot of relationships and friendships, and I'll cherish that for a long time.
Welcome to another Farnham Report. What can I say? What a big weekend it was last weekend for the Merseyside Nighthawks. They got to travel down to Nottingham, play the Nottingham Caesars. Now going down there, Nottingham Caesars were going into this game at 500. They won 2, they lost 2. It was their first home game, and they really had to show something for the fans. They had the Merseyside Nighthawks coming in, and the Nighthawks are the best offence in that division. And the one thing the Nighthawks have been really, really good at last year and this year is scoring points. What can I say? Nottingham did a really, really good job. They shut them down in the first half. They really, really did well to hold that Nighthawks offense back. It was 6-0 at half-time. The Nighthawks did what they do best though. The coaches made the adjustments, and in the second half the Nighthawks really, really started to turn the ball, move the ball down the field, and were much more productive with it. They managed to get themselves up 27-0 with a few seconds to go before Nottingham managed to pick up a consolation. And that's a big game because Gateshead lost last week. This means that the Merseyside Nighthawks now really, really have a stranglehold on that division. Providing that they can go up to Gateshead, and providing that they can defend their home turf against Clyde Valley, they're really in a strong position to go forward from this division and be competing next year for a Premiership place. Their next game is the Chester Romans. This is a big, big rivalry game as well. Now, I've talked about Chester there. Chester themselves had a huge, huge game this weekend. Chester haven't managed to win a game this season, so this was a really, really big opportunity for them. They were playing the Shropshire Revolution, another team that hadn't won. It was a real 6-pointer in the scale of things. It was an early season relegation battle. Now, relegation is a big thing this year because there are divisions below, and nobody wants to be that team that's going to drop down. We expected a close game, but Chester showed up. They worked hard, they worked the ball, and they took their lead quite early. They just kept pushing and driving and driving. They were 39-0 up late on in the game before Shropshire Revolution managed to score. The final score in that game was 47-7. Now, elsewhere in the division, Clyde Valley, they played against the Doncaster Mustangs. They managed to beat the Doncaster Mustangs quite comfortably, but that keeps them in touch with the Nighthawks. Now, I know what you're thinking is, if only right now I could see those division standings. It's like blue beer in this place. It's one I preferred earlier. That's right, you've got your Merseyside Nighthawks at 4-0. You've got your Chester Romans down here, they're at 1-3. This is going to be a big, big game coming up for both those teams. Chester need to win it. It's pride, you know, it's Merseyside pride. It's a big, big game for them. So that'll be an interesting game to come up. Elsewhere in the division, elsewhere in football next week, Lancaster Wolverines, they're away to Coventry Jets in the Prem, and Halton Spartans are away to Staffordshire Surge. Now we know Spartans had a great win last week, and they're going to be wanting to build on that. What can I say? If you get a chance to travel, go out and see those games. If you haven't got a chance to travel, it's okay because there's lots of sports on TV for you this weekend. That's right, it's Dave's favourite time of the year. It's time for the Stanley Cup. The hockey season's long, it goes on forever and ever. What can you say? But this time we've got to the finals, and we've got Tampa Bay Lightning taking on the Chicago Blackhawks. Game 2 of that series is on Saturday night at 12:15 AM. Check your TV listings, it'll be on there somewhere. Definitely an opportunity to watch the 2 best hockey teams from this year. Coming into the game, Tampa Bay Lightning managed to beat the New York Rangers in 7-game series in the conference finals. And Chicago Blackhawks managed to beat the Anaheim Ducks. Not the Mighty Ducks, not anymore anyway. But they managed to beat the Anaheim Ducks and get there as well. It's a really, really, really big game. The Stanley Cup is fantastic, and it's an exciting time of year. Now, if you don't want to watch hockey, you've also got basketball. What can I say? LeBron's Cavaliers, he's gone back to Cleveland, his hometown, and he's really built a good team there. He's working hard with those players, he's developing the young talent they've got there. They've made it to the NBA Finals, they're playing the Golden State Warriors. This is going to be a great series. Game 2 is on Sunday, Game 3 Tuesday, and Game 4 is on Thursday. Now, I know James was talking last week about women's football, so I'm sure he'll be happy with the news that FIFA 16 is going to have women's football on it. I want to just for you, James, you've made the difference. That was a Phantom Report. See you next week.
Halton Spartans, new addition to BAFA. Big game for them the other week. They were at their first ever home game, and we were privileged enough to go down and see that.
What a stadium.
Fantastic. Witness, what's the...
Witness Vikings.
Yeah, the Select Security Stadium, is it?
Yeah.
Great venue for it, and always great to see American football being put on in a venue like that.
Dave, we're here live at Select Security Stadium in Halton, home of the Halton Spartans.
New home of the Halton Spartans, home of the new Halton Spartans as well.
Certainly
and it's
is.
nice to see you've dressed for the occasion, Gary.
And as same could be said about the cameraman, yes. Anyway, so a nice little venue they got here. Obviously it's their first home game ever, because it's their first season.
Yeah.
What do you think of the place, Dave?
I think it's ideal for American football. 4G pitch.
What more could you ask for?
I mean, look at the layout of it. It's the groundsmen were working on this last night. I know Coach Derbyshire came down to check on it. The setup's fantastic, and hopefully we've got a good crowd that's going to be every week to support the team. It's only a £5 to get in, 20 quid for the 5 games this season. What, you can't argue with that, can you? What are we going to be expecting in terms of quality? Because our viewers might be used to seeing the likes of the Merseyside Nighthawks who are playing Division 1 football. This is NFC West 2. Is there going to be a difference in style, a difference in offence?
This, you've got to remember, this is almost like an introductory level. A lot of teams that have come through the associate process to get into the league get placed at this level, and of course you've got teams who quite rightly shouldn't be in there, who stand out, like Manchester, who are going to be quite dominant this season, and Staffordshire, who are fortunate, they were competing with the Nighthawks last year. They're two good teams, but if you look at the rest of the conference, you've got Carlisle, you've got Walney, you've got Halton. There's 3 teams there going to be battling it out for that 3rd spot or mid-table spot. And if I'm honest, even though it's their first season, I think Halton have got a really good chance.
Obviously the rain's held off so far. Good bank holiday weekend entertainment. So let's see what they bring. It's time to drop the puck. Oh wait, that's the wrong show. Cut. It's time to drop the ball.
I wouldn't do that.
That's what we've done all the time.
I'm afraid it is. I'm joined by head coach Ian Derbyshire.
Hi, Gary.
Great result for you today.
It was, yeah. First home game. Started off with a lot of nerves today. I think the emotion got a bit better of the guys. As you know, you guys were up last week. We had a tough defeat against Manchester. But we stuck it out. Guys took a lot of character today and finished the game well. So, proud.
So, quite clearly, you took a lot out of that game from Manchester.
Yeah.
Coming into today's game, obviously, you only won 8-0 last time against these, so
Yep.
a lot to prove.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was 8-0 up against Carlisle. Fair play to Carlisle. Long way to come. They come out down there with a small squad, so best of luck for Chris for the rest of the season. We scored 33 points. That's the most points we've scored. So I'm proud of the guys. Defence got a touchdown as well, which is always nice. Offence, we spread the players around. Some good running, some good catching. We played with our second string quarterback today. So Tom had a good game. So, yeah, good.
The fans enjoyed it. Do you think the team have enjoyed it?
I think at half-time they probably weren't enjoying it. It was a bit edgy. We weren't enjoying it. We regrouped. We had the coaches together. We then got the players together. And we settled down second half. I think that first home game nerves got to them. It's a big occasion, big stadium. But they settled down. And I think we'll get better here. We want to make this our fortress. We want teams to come here and be a bit overawed with the occasion. But everything went well off the field, and eventually we got it right on the field as well.
If you get a chance, folks, and you're living in the Halton area, come down and support the Spartans. They need your support.
Cheers.
I can't imagine how much organisation goes into setting up a team from scratch at that level, and then the payoff being that Sunday at their first home game with a big crowd there, first time they've ever been out there. That's got to be really rewarding for everybody involved with the club.
They must have, well, yeah, it certainly has. The thing is, those players must have felt really good having the fans behind them like that. It's one step away from being the big time anyway. Yeah. And I must say, I mean, they looked the part. Good game. I mean, I was quite impressed with some of the play, and obviously people are giving should we say the Spartans a bit of a persona of being a team because they're fairly new. It's where the veterans who were just dwindling out the game are going to. But Coach Derbyshire's made it quite clear that they're setting their stall out of what they want to do. And being a new team, they've done really, really well. They've got the right facilities. They're seeking, their own coaching staff are seeking coaching from other teams. Like the Nighthawks, I believe, they're helping them as well. They're trying to get their stall in order so that they've got on the right path to producing a really, really good setup.